Alright, Mason Robots, you ready for some heresies? Alright, we're gonna get it out here. Pull up the whole turn machine and tell them they're all death cards about how I want you to set a game of 70 Magic the Gathering cards together for a commander structure that's generally gonna get you the probability, right? I want you to set up what the mass gap is. So knowing antisocial problem with authority, you should know how to fix said problem. Generally, I'd say put up the square, bring out the corner of your house, and we're going to make that the perfect square. What you don't know is A, B, C, D, E, F, E, B. Okay, so I got a bit of a repeating pattern there. A, G, whatever. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Okay, so we got us a 6x6 brick inside here. That's how that's running. What else do we got? A, B, C. Well, given the house, right? We're just going to put a mass gap out there of what that area looks like, or what the volume or probability of following that kind of code sequence is pretty easy when I say, well, if that one's A, and you got the first line, and this one is A, and this one is A, and this one is A, well, maybe there's some repeating pattern to it to a given choice. If you choose to do that, hell, you could just cut this whole thing right down into whatever version of that code you were looking for other reasons on the mass gap. Oh, just there's these things, and there's goodwill, right? That's up there somewhere's in here. I think I got it. Oh no, that was that. Anyways, having one of these models is pretty good to have worked out. Let me tell you. Whether it be this one, gold ion, a free floating, highly divided gold particle in solution, like lithium, may have some brain chemistry to deal with Morpheus giving up the codes to Zion over there. And if that's where I want that bunny to be, in that house for Schrodinger's equation, on what it is, I'll have a pretty good idea on what it should do for other things that I've done about what that standard model may look like when we're dealing with the S1 S order, or somebody's got higher momentum or position in a Higgs field. That's the mass gap. You're generally going to say among students inside here, I'm going to graph you. That's how many neutrons, how many protons. You kind of emit alpha decay when dealing with said functions. Putting them up here about what this could reference. Now, this is where we began in M theory, the move, which not exactly where I'd like to start QFT as far as what I'm expecting that house to do when I do something practical to them that definitely backbones this situation. There's no way for me to know what this is, and there's no practical equation when somebody asks me to find the angle of the slope inside of here. I could argue it's definitely always hydrogen of some kind, back to hydrogen and helium. On that S1 S order, this is A-level physics, by the way. Good one I picked up. This one is just, laying around of a couple of different things. And is that periodic table correct as far as what it actually looks like when you stretch it out for what's inside of that? At any rate, inside of there's a way that optics photoelectrically affects the Big Bang events, and throwing out a function about what the exact model you're looking for here is. Well, that's me crossing out Connolly. Inside here about what to do. When we play a chess game, it's eat to it the manner. Why would I start that game up here over a random circumstance, a barn, against hydrogen? Is because hydrogen is always going to be greater from that Laplacian point. That's where Big Bang begins under a topology argument of the ball and the Mobius strip Klein bottle, extended to higher levels of integral tools on Couch's war for the command points on an Iron Warrior over there doing land nav, sonar, combatives, air superiority of a specific type of gambit that deals with your home hardscaping models and what's going into you trying to figure out the rotation, the cleaning pattern, a period, or a mod, where in one sequence you're still dividing that day's worth of work, sleep, banging the old lady, walking the dog, whatever it is that's going to get you on, what that system is. A horse over here going to be ripping the memetics inside of it, or the amnestics of the spaghetti monster. And that's a real notation about learn how to walk again with some of these features. If walk speed was what you were doing, then the log chart sign may be a little bit more specific in there. I mean, we can all go to the computer and know that's where Lucy's skull is going to be buried as far as how to do some of this math, because it's well established. Don't want to lose it. And at the same time, there's a way to break down what hill size, the mass of this gap that's going to determine some of that Gaussian curvature when the dot plot of somebody digging is that notation. Or again, to the corner of your house, you have to figure out your square footage to put in carpet, or pour a concrete pour, or a circle concrete pour with a pi r squared notation. If that's what the mass was, then to be out on the calculations doesn't necessarily mean that you will fail. It just means that, well, somewhere's in here I have a concrete pour. But that notation in the books about where that chart is going to be out for your run speeds, because they don't practically exist at a human functionable level to say that's what it does. It certainly works for squirrels when they are the P, in the way that you look in a field of National Geographic, there's going to be some general breakdowns on some things about what I need to mass gap, how I'm mass gapping, what are its general timelines, what is some of its functions if the results that you're looking for are going to be somewhere in that neighborhood for mainline power crops, or just your regular structures and whole seed swag green systems, of what type of algorithms you're putting with it. When you're given this new horse heresy on what hydrogen may reference for the way you're generally describing it in some function that you want it to correlate to on what it actually looks like. So again, this is very sloppy for what you want it to do, because in this notation there's what the optics would be lensing you to want certain well-known variables on their born identity to define themselves as is a mass gap, as erodes conjecture, certainly chaos theory abound about M theory. Changing the letter makes it an N system under certain photons of people traveling a field, baby in the bathtub, the charges, the currents, the things that say between point A to B, that they're negatively charged, they're a monopole to a certain degree, ones and zeros, but don't necessarily carry the same weight when the geometry is in a different form. And that's what's up. That's what, when you say the black body cosmology crisis is about, that's what we're trying to define, not just non-locally, but in a very specific local function that tells me that's going to be not only the triple point of gold, but this gold, silver, copper, silver, copper, gold, lead, tin, anything mixed in with that's going to pin in a certain way, which means that the chemistry that I got to do to refine that isn't strip tiers Penzero here about doing it. It's one of those videos with a certain palladium cutout inside of it as well, which takes different chemistry. The nitrogen or nitric acid, sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, well, the hydrochloric bond is going to give me a special geodesic to knock something out with higher probability, not necessarily just CERN pushing them through the pipes trying to get all those higher probability of bandwidths to vibrate inside of lifespans that may be very unstable is the term, which means radioactive, that are decaying at a rate where I got to hold all that field inside of there to describe, why this, entropy and this is going to be so far away, Q and P from one another, or Schrödinger who or better, when you define what that officer in that caliber has to look like, salty sharps, with certain run speeds and certain values against that field on a planar space. Generally, I hat and J hat speaking, there's a couple of different models of Genesis and Firebow, but that's fine because they both Firebow, right? That's not generally the issue of what twistor theory is applying as a mass gap or a Riemann sphere's quadrants played out a little different. When you do that, it gets us right back to, let me see if I can find a real stone mill for you, or throwing a ball experiment, where that's the logarithm there, and this was me signing in the sheets every night to a different type of deep field, not necessarily the stock market with all the wiggly squiggly noodles properly programmed into here, but could you imagine what that optic would do for changing the mass of the situation? If potentially FMA, what would that do? Catch you on the next one.